What's up guys, Pete here. Hey, a little bit different setting than how we normally start the videos, but I wanted to make this intro to help those of you that were in the same position as me and you're installing rear aftermarket arms on your Z or your G platform due to coilovers or lowering the ride height. So I wanted to make this intro because I learned something when I did this arm install that I could not find online, nor I don't think is shared enough. Here's the deal. If you're gonna lower your 370Z or G37 or the older Z and G platforms, you are going to run into an issue where as you lower the rear suspension, you get an excessive amount of camber, okay? Now obviously our goal is to bring that camber back so we're not super standstill. If you want traction, you're going to want less camber. You're going to want 1 or 2 degrees is what you're going to want to be around. Now, you cannot attain that 1 or 2 degrees at a low ride height by just replacing the camber arm and the radius arm. And that's why I'm making this intro. I want to save you guys some time and money here. So, go ahead, do yourself a favor. Before you do the install, so you can install them all at once, unlike me, because I was uneducated, go buy yourself a tow arm. Now, the tow arm is actually your rear bucket. So if you're on springs, this isn't for you, but you're also probably not so low that you can't get the tow or the camber within a decent spec. Now, if you're going way low, like me on this car, you're going to need a tow arm for it. Now I have a true, you can't see, but I have a true coilover setup bolted to the spindle up there. It's a stance coilover. And what I found is that if you pull the camber in and you're around a degree or two, you're way off on tow. And if you pull the tow back in and you want the tow to be relatively good, you're way out on camber. There's no happy medium on it, which is why you need to do yourself a favor and go buy one of these. Now that we got that out of the way, this video, I think you're gonna enjoy it, especially if you're doing an arm install. I'm gonna show you how to install the camber arms, the radius arms. I'm gonna show you how to set and adjust the ride height on rear coilovers, true coilovers. And then I'm also going to show you how to do an at-home alignment. So in the sense of an alignment, we don't have an alignment machine. I'm going to show you how to use basic hand tools. And what you're going to do is you're going to be able to set the camber and then you're going to be able to set the tow. So stay tuned for this video. I think you're really going to enjoy it. You're probably going to learn a thing or two. What is going on, guys? It's Pete back with the Project G37. Hey, today is a good day. I'll tell you why. Today is suspension day, which I'm super stoked on. So this is, it was the $2,000 Project G. But what we're getting into today, suspension. So let me get this car up in the air. And let's rock and roll. So I got it up in the air here. We're gonna get some light so you guys can see for one. And for two, this is a Minnesota car. You can tell by the accent when I say Minnesota. But here's what we get a big problem with. You guys in the South probably don't have this issue. We get bolts that get so seized that they actually just rust to the bushing, if that makes sense. So they don't spin. They just try to spin the whole bushing and they don't slide out. So I get the fun joy of cutting out this bolt, that bolt, and I think that one comes out. I got a tool that's going to make this a heck of a lot easier. And it's basically a Milwaukee grinder with a humongous cutting disc on it. So we're going to be working in this area, and we're going to be doing this number. We got to figure out exactly how many bolts don't move. So, yeah, that one doesn't move. That one doesn't move. This one does move, obviously, because I have it halfway out. And then I wonder, yeah, so we're going to be cutting bolts. It's going to be lots and lots of fun. Safety first. Round two. Oh, look at that. I might invest in like a full face shield. That's what we might do. So here's what we got going on. So that bolt did not want to come out, so we cut it out. Same with that one. So we're gonna go ahead and get our arm set. Oh yeah, you guys probably want to see the arms. The arms are pretty cool. Well, look what we have here. So we got the Camber delete kit, ISR, and then, ooh, those look nice. So here is the ISR Pro Series. So holy crap. This will bend the subframe before it bends an arm. Damn. This is definitely going to add some weight to your ride, boys and girls. 2.5 pounds a piece, easily. Let's check these bad boys out. These are the Camber arms. How heavy are these? What? I swear these are lighter and they're a bigger arm. That's kind of funny. Anyways, so here's the Camber arms. They got the little slants in them. Pro Series, ISR, really good stuff. Well, you guys already know what these are. The main attraction. So, what are these? I don't even know if they're, yeah, 3-position adjustable. That's pretty cool. I like that a lot. Here's the best part about these. Greasable mounts. It doesn't get better than that. It really doesn't. Got some paperwork with it. Cool. Beautiful. Let's go ahead and get our aftermarket arms in. So before you go ahead and put these in, if you notice, our arms are, well, if you notice, compare the right arms. So these are not the same length as factory, right? So the first thing you're going to want to do is set them roughly to a factory height. So that way, once we bolt these on and once we start to adjust the toe and the camber, we're not having to clock and do major adjustments on it. So this has a lot of adjustment over factory. You're not going to be making this significantly longer. This is just going to be for toe adjustments. So I got this to about the factory measurement. Now we're not going to move the jam nut. We're not going to do anything of the sort. We're just going to slip this on. I forgot that it's got to go on the hub first. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to do the same thing. Now since this is angled, find your straight plane, you know, just so they're about lined up. And then obviously we are way short, so we're going to go ahead, extend this out so that it mates up. Yours probably won't look like that because you probably didn't have to cut yours out, but I did. So we're going to go ahead and move this so it's approximately the same length. So just like that. Like I said, approximately. Doesn't have to be perfect because we are going to be unmounting these and making adjustments to them. So we'll go ahead, we'll get this seated on here. A couple threads is fine. You don't really have to tighten them. So now we're gonna go ahead, install our eccentric delete kit. Now, look how fat those washers are. I thought this was gonna be like a kind of a cheap kit, but I was wrong, which is actually pretty cool. So I'm just threading these on hand tight. I'm not torquing them down or nothing because, again, we're going to have to make adjustments if we want to get the alignment correct. So we're going to go ahead, we'll install the other side, and then we got to put load on the car, set the ride height. But before we do that, we have to go ahead and install our rear coilovers, which are going to be stance coilovers. So I got to set the ride height for those, and then we'll get into the factory adjustments for these. So we'll go ahead and switch gears here. I got my stance coilover. Anyways, we're going to go ahead and adjust the shock length so I'm not sitting on the ground here, because this thing's not going to be an inch off the ground. So I'm going ahead bringing the coilover up, then we're going to have to mock it up. Any of you guys that have installed coilovers know how time consuming that process is. Well, I guess that's the advantage of a transmission jack. You don't really have to guess. So that's about where I want it to sit, kind of right in that area, in that ballpark. So I'll go ahead and get my tape measure, and I'll measure from there to the very top. Well, if you look at that, these require a lot more modification than I remember. I'm gonna have to drill a hole right through the top. So yeah, just put that rubber stop on the top. Just so I could index where my hole goes. Oh my gosh, was that a pain in the butt. So there's our adjuster right there. I had to drill through the seat, pull all the foam out. Doesn't look like much, but it was hard to get the angle right. But now I can literally, when I want to adjust this, that is a job well done. And yes, there's a hole in the seat. I don't care. Still nice and comfy for the passengers. All right, so we got our stance coilovers installed. Both the rear seats, the adjuster port sticking out. So now we're gonna go ahead and get into the alignment. So before we get into this, see my dirty hands there. This is a camber gauge, okay? So you lay it flat, depending which way the wheel rocks, it will tell you the camber, positive and negative. These are literally like 13, 14, 15 bucks on Amazon, okay? It even gives you a level here so you can tell if you're straight up and down. Now, this will stick to anything magnetic. So most wheels, the center caps are not going to be magnetic, nor do you want to use that as a good reference, which is why I was referring to the angle iron, because not only do you need that for your camber to measure, or you can just take it right off the hub. For example, I could take this wheel off and just measure it right on the actual hub. But I'm also going to take a toe measurement with the bar across this way so that we can measure the length between the front and rear of the tire so that we know if we're square. All right, so I'm going to show you how this works. I just put those on, just magnetic. Make sure if you have wheels that have a concave, meaning that they stick out further than the actual rim. So the rim is the top, bottom, all the way around. That's the actual rim. So make sure you hold it up nice and straight. Go on the rim there, on the rim there. And then if we look, so you can read it this way. So we're too cambered because I don't want to be that cambered. So if you look, obviously the wheel has some heavy camber going on, but the toe we're going to have to adjust as well. So my rule of thumb is if the camber is way out, try to attack that first. Otherwise, if the camber is very close, adjust your toe and then go back and remeasure your camber, because toe adjustments will change camber on an independent rear suspension such as this. They will make a slight difference. So because we did the factory arm length and we're coming up, the arms are actually too long on the bottom. They're too long. So they got to be pulled in. So what I'm going to do, and I guess I didn't show you my setup here. This is with the suspension completely compressed. So I got my transmission jack, and then I got a transmission stand, or whatever you want to call that, pull jack. And then I got it strapped to the lift because we don't want the car flipping off the lift from all the weight in the front where the engine is. So I'm going to go ahead, take the wheels back off. We're going to shorten the arms a little bit, specifically shorten the camber arm just a little bit. I'm going to remeasure, and then I'm going to take a toe measurement. So if you remember, this is why I said only go hand tight. All right, so we're going to go ahead and pull this off. And then I'm going to take this and bend it down. And all I'm going to do is we're trying to shorten, and I know this is in your way here. We're trying to shorten this rod. So what we're going to do is drive it in. So we're going to go 1 turn, 2 turn, 3 turn. So 3 turns. I'm going to install, reinstall, and then remeasure. So now we are, I think we're sitting where I want to be. So I'd say we're about 0.8, 0.9, which is for rear suspension. Ideal if you want traction. That's with maximum load on the struts. So as you come up, it's going to camber more. As you come down, it's going to camber less. That's typically most independent rear suspension is going to do it that way. So now we have to do the other side. So if we did 3 over here, we should do 3 as far as threading it in. But what I do recommend is measuring, so getting like an actual caliper on it so you can measure the distance between the end of the threads and the shaft of the control arm. An example of that is measure here to here without, obviously without the nut being in the way. Now we're going to get into toe. So yeah, I know most of you aren't willing to do that to your wheels, but they're not the nicest wheels in the world. I don't really care. They're the beater wheels. So what we're going to do, obviously, try to get it as, equal on both sides as you can. It doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to be measuring loosely around where the profile of the tire is, where all the tread is. So if you have uneven tread, probably not going to help you. They do sell camber plates that like bolt to the hubs and all that kind of stuff. I'm just doing it, like I said, a rough guesstimate of getting it in alignment. So we got this one on this side. We got this one on this side. And obviously we're going to use a tape measure. Why wouldn't we? So we're going to run a tape from this edge loosely around here all the way to the other side. And then same with the fronts. Now, that's not going to give you a perfect square. For a perfect square, you would have to measure from the end of here to the opposite end of the other side, but you would have to guarantee that it's absolutely perfect. So you would measure from here, how far is the tire, and then from here, how far is the tire. First, before I get into that, I just want to see how close I actually am on toe. If I'm way out, then yes, then I'm going to measure it from each tire, make sure it's perfectly square, and then measure across. But sometimes that's getting a little too far in, because when you get this thing on the alignment rack, it's not going to be perfect no matter how you do this procedure. So that being said, again, we're just trying to get close. 70 7/8. So we are way off. All right, so I kind of lied. I got very frustrated because you live and you learn. The radius arms, or the proper term is lateral arm for the rear of the suspension. I'll show you kind of what I'm looking at. So this arm will not bring you back into a proper toe angle. So I went ahead, set it to very cambered, and I did that so that this arm pushes out, which then fixes your toe because you're trying to drive the spindle this way, meaning you got to run camber. So I am going to be purchasing rear arms for this, obviously, because I can't really, I don't know. I don't want an excessive amount of camber, and it doesn't look like it on camera. I got the door open. Became sunny out, so wanted to just show you guys I got the install done. I also, if you notice, I went ahead and installed the sway bars, which are looking pretty good. So on top of that, I installed the rear brakes, spacers, the whole works. But yeah, I just went to town on this thing. I got a lot done. I got frustrated, threw it back together. Today is another day, if you can't notice. But yeah, rear suspension's looking pretty good. I'm stoked on it.